Hello and welcome to the second tutorial in the Pretty Potions and Poisons Apothecary event. In this tutorial, I'll cover altering bottles and tins for your apothecary cabinet. You don't need to worry about taking notes during the tutorial, as there is a companion PDF document with the supply list and steps in the tutorial. There were so many things I want to show you that I had to break this tutorial into two pieces, so be sure to check out the second part. Now let's get started. So in this tutorial, I'm going to take you through altering lots of bottles and tins and matchboxes. And I'm going to kind of do it in the order of my collage sheet. So I'm first going to go through all of the items that I made that use the labels on the Apothecary Labels number 1 sheet. And we'll start with the pumpkins. The rotten pumpkins guaranteed to stink. And you can see this bottle. I've got flying bats again. Obviously I like bats and I like flying bats especially. And so I started with this bottle, and in this case we don't need the cork because we're going to use a pumpkin bead for the cork, and it's got a hole in it, which is perfect. That's what we're gonna put the flying bats. So just like with the bubble bottle flying bats that I showed you in the first tutorial, you're going to want to use these bats and just choose which ones you want, and you'll glue those onto wires. And you can see I've twisted these wires using the E6000 glue just like you did before. This time I didn't paint them, but of course you could paint them orange if you wanted to match the pumpkin, or paint them red, whatever you like. And then glue one per wire, and you might want to make the wires different lengths so that some bats will be higher than others. You could do more than 3. I did 3, but the one thing that you want to always be conscious of, if you're using the black paper mache boxes, you've got 5 inches to work with if you want the bottle inside the box. If you want to put it on the top, then you can have them as tall as you want. But as I was going through building all these, most of them I double checked just to make sure that I wasn't going over 5 inches. So just think about that as you do your bottles. The other thing that I did for this particular label, I designed it so that when you put it on the bottle, you can allow the raven or crow, blackbird, to stick up and not glue it down. So it's actually loose, and I just glued this part of the label. Another thing that I did for a lot of these, especially the ones where the top, I didn't glue the top part down, is I came in with a black marker and I colored the back of the label. That way, I thought it looked better when you see it from the back side. Now, some of the bottles, there's so much stuff in the bottle that you really cannot see the back side of the label, but I thought in many cases it just looked good to have the back side a solid color, and in this case I made it black. Now the contents of the bottle, I'm going to show you lots of different contents, but in this case I use sand, which you can shake this up, it separates after a while, and I used the caramel alcohol ink, and then I used the just regular rubbing alcohol inside there. Now if you're going to put contents in a bottle that are liquid, you're going to want to seal this. So the first thing I did was go ahead and get your bats in your bead. So you'll want to get however many bats, get this all glued in. I used the E6000 to glue the bottom of this, and just make sure they're all glued in there. And then I come in with glossy accents, and I do a ribbon of glue around just the top and the inside of the bottle, and then stick your bead in that, obviously after you've filled it with whatever you want to fill it with, and then let that dry, and then come back in and do a bead of glossy accents all the way around. You might have to do it more than once, and it'll give you a really good seal, and then you don't have to worry about the stuff coming out of the bottle or evaporating, which is another issue if you're going to put liquid in the bottle. Now for gluing on labels, I used glossy accents. You want to coat the label completely and then apply it to the bottle. It'll dry pretty quick. One of the things is it's really hard, at least it is for me, not to have any of the glue go outside of the label and get on the bottle. So one of the things that you can do when that happens is that Windex will take off glossy accents off of glass. So once you get your label on, if you find that there are bits of glue or you've got glue on your hands, which I do, my hands are always in a mess when I'm working on projects, and you find glue somewhere on the bottle, just get a little bit of glossy accent or a little bit of Windex on your Q-tip and just go in next to wherever it is and rub it and the glossy accents will come off. Be careful when you're doing it close to an image, because when you do that, if you touch it with the Windex, you're going to get the ink on the paper is going to come off too. So you want to be really careful as you're working in there getting all the glue off of the bottle. Now another thing that I did to all the labels, or I did this to all the labels even though I didn't color the backs of all the labels, is I did come in after I cut them and inked them, and just to get rid of that white edge that you get when you cut the images off. And then, you know, depending on the label, you might want to distress it more, and so you might actually want to put some of the inks onto the label itself and darken it up. And I pretty much on all the labels I used either the Black Soot Distress ink or the Vintage Photo Distress ink. So next, let's move on to another bottle. We're going to talk about the 1,000-year-old Gargoyle Drool, which is one where I used this bottle. It's a vial actually, and I didn't want, for one reason, I didn't want this to be more than 5 inches, but I also didn't want it sticking up so high. So I actually cut off the cork right at the top of the bottle, and then I filled it with alcohol ink again, and I used the red pepper ink, and I used the alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and that way I got kind of a mottled reddish. It's just pretty much like the way it was in the bubble bottle with the flying bats, kind of a mucky looking red. And then I used that for the inside, and then I glued with glossy accents, I glued the cork in place, and then I dripped a red candle over it. So unlike the candles that I used on the top of the cabinet where I dripped white wax and then painted it, I actually dripped red wax, which you can see, unlike the other wax, it's more one uniform color. Then I glued the gargoyle on the top and added little crystals for his eyes so that they stood out. Next, I'm going to talk about the poison bottle. Now this is an amber color bottle, which to me looks, you know, really good for the apothecary. A lot of the bottles where it was a dark color, I didn't bother to put anything inside because you can't really see it very well. So it's kind of up to you as to what you want to do with that. On this, I used this bead, which skull bead, and it's got a hole in the top of it, which worked really well for sticking things like flowers and the spider that you see on the side. So before gluing this on with the E6000 onto the bottle, I added the 2 roses, and then I put the spider on a eye pin, and then stuck both of those in the hole and glued those in place. And then I glued the skull to the bottle. And then you can see I added a couple eyeball beads. I thought that looked good with it popping out. You know, you could add the cat eye beads, or you could use stickles or anything you want. I just think it kind of dresses up the skull to have the beads popping out, its eyeballs popping out. And then next, speaking of skulls, I've got the instant embalming fluid. Now this is the bottle I used for it. It's a 2-inch bottle. I started by painting the cork with black alcohol ink, just like I did on the bubble bottle in the first tutorial. And don't forget, if you dilute the black ink, you get purple. So if you want it to stay black, then don't dilute it. If you want it to be purple, then do dilute it. And I'm just painting it however as dark as you want it. And then I got a piece of heavy wire, and I poked a hole in the top of the cork, and that's going to accommodate the wire. Then I put these beads, these little skeleton beads, which have a hole that go all the way through. I put this on the heavy wire. This one doesn't want to poke through. He can be the bottom guy. I put these all on the heavy wire. Oops. Like this. And then I bent them, you know, so they were kind of crooked. You can see. Bent them like this, and then you would have this wire would be sticking out the bottom. I have to figure out why this guy's hole is not, can't get all the way through. Maybe here we go. All right, let's try this again. Okay, you, then you. Now the inside of the bottle, I used black alcohol ink for the liquid inside, and I used the alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and it kind of made it a little bit of a murky black, kind of greenish color, which I thought was good for this. So now you see I got all the guys in a row, and then I want to bend them crazy directions, and then stick them in the hole in the top of the cork, because corks are great for this kind of stuff. And I stuck the thing all the way through to the bottom and then put a little bit of glue down there. And then you just bend your guys in any crazy direction you want. And of course you could do more than this. You could put 5 of these guys on here if you wanted to. And then I snipped off the end and put a bead of glue there. And then I put a little bead cap I used right on the top. Kind of looks like a little fez on the top. And then I put crystals in the eyes, little red crystals. And then I used a ribbon to tie the little label that says danger around the neck of the bottle. Now on this label, I did do a lot of black on the label to kind of darken it up and make it look a little bit more aged. Now this bottle is using the Ravencall label, and you can see I've got wings here on the side. These are Dresden wings, and I started this label by coloring it back, the back black, and then gluing the wings onto the label, and then gluing the label and the wings. And I didn't glue the wings all the way down. I left them open just a little bit. That's why they kind of flare just a little bit on the bottle. And then the stopper here, I did cut some of it off, not all of it, but some of it off, and I painted it with the red alcohol ink. And then these crows in the top, I don't know if you can see here, let me pull this out, they come on wires. And so you can just poke holes in the top of the cork and then stick the wires in and then bend them any way you want on top of the bottle. Now another thing I used on the bottle were these stickers, and they started out gold, but they didn't stay gold. I used the red alcohol ink to paint them. Nothing is safe from me and alcohol ink. And it's just super easy to paint. And I usually work with gold or silver because it's easy to make them whatever color you want. So just paint your stickers and let them dry, and then you can pull them off just like you'd done nothing, and then you can stick them on your bottle. And so now I've got coordinating stickers. Instead of gold, I've got metallic red. And as I had mentioned before, the alcohol ink is translucent, so you don't lose the metallic look, you just turn it red. So the next bottle I'm going to talk about is the Rabid Rancid and Rotten. This is made by Icky, the potion supply company. They are the experts in yuck. And there's 3 labels involved in this. And what I want to show you here is that you can think about using bottles in concert with each other. So basically I started with this bottom bottle, then I glued this bottle on, and then I glued this bottle on top of that. After, of course, I filled the contents with, or I filled the bottles with something. And I just used different things that I had that were the different colors. Oops, don't want to let the top out. And then the cork, I painted it with the Pesto alcohol ink. And then the spider starts out as silver. and I painted that with the caramel alcohol ink, and then you can just you poke a hole and stick your spider in the top of the cork. And the next one I'm going to do is called Sleeping Death Powder. And I actually filled it with, the powder in here is embossing powder because I buy it by the ton. So I had lots of that. I made a chain, or I added a chain with these little charms, the skull charms, and I used a bit of the black Gilder's paste that I showed you in the first tutorial. And then this is a bead that I added little crystals for the eyes, and I glued all this into the cork. I think I had to cut this cork off. It was a little too long. And then on the back, I have used this sticker here. And after putting the sticker on the bottle, which went on really easily, then all I had to do is I came in with the caramel alcohol ink and my brush, and painted in the open areas. And you can just apply as much as you want, and the sticker makes it easy to stay within the lines. And you can just come in here and just paint. And of course you can do different colors, whatever you want, and so you can see here the end result of painting inside the sticker with the ink. Now on the front, this label, you can see the difference. I've come in and colored the edges with the Distress ink to just make it look a little bit more vintage on the Sleeping Death Powder label. Now the next bottle is one of my favorites, the Spiderwebs Extra Sticky. And I started with this bottle, don't need the cork for this one. After applying the label, and this is another one that I colored black, and the actual top of this, you do not have to glue the top down. So this is one of those where once I glue it on, I actually left the top loose, sticking up. And then the inside you see here is the spiderweb stuff that I used in the on the cabinet, and I like it better than using cotton because it sticks together, and you know, you can stretch it and it'll still stick together. And so I've got it coming out the top and going down the side, and the stickers that you see are just some little stickers that I've had for years that were laying around the house. And then on the back, I have used another one of the stickers from this set, the spider webs, and I've put that around the back. And for the feet, I've used these spider charms. Now I only use 3. When you're working with a round bottle, you don't really need to use 4 like you would something square. 3 works really, really well. And I used the E6000 glue because you want a really good bond. And it's also important that you glue them at the same height. So when your bottle is standing, it will stand flat and not be wonky one way or the other. And then in addition, once I glued these all on, I did them one at a time, let it dry, then did the next one. Then I added a little crystal here at the top of the bead or the foot. Now this set of bottles, what I did was I actually glued together 3 of the bottles, and I used glossy accents and 3 of the eyeball images from the collage sheet. And then you probably can't see this on the video, but to kind of pop out the eyeball in the center, I used the glossy accents just to create a little dome. And then I like the idea of feet or things standing on things, so I've used this snowflake filigree to create a stand for the 3 bottles, and this is super easy to bend. So I left this straight and then just bent both sides to create a platform, and that creates a platform and gives you feet, and then just set that on top. And I filled the bottles with something called Flower Soft. I mean, one of the things you can do is just rummage around your stash and find micro beads or any kind of little thing you've got, any kind of beads, mica flakes, anything that you think could be contents for bottles. And then I used a head pin to stick through the beads, which are just little tiny eyeball beads, and then in through these skulls, and then into the cork, which I painted with the pitch black alcohol ink. And then I put a little dollop of glue at the bottom there just to kind of keep it all in place. And of course you could add some little crystals in the eyes if you wanted, or some stickles or something like that to dress up the skull as well. Now the next bottle is the Black Swamp Frog Slime. And this bottle, I put the label on, then dripped the wax, white wax, down the edges of the bottle, or all over the bottle I should say. And then I painted it with the Pesto alcohol ink. And then I poked a hole in the top, and for the sign, now on the sign, on the collage sheet, you have a long thing to hold the sign. But you'll have to cut that shorter if you want this bottle to fit in the 5-inch opening. So, and I like the idea of it kind of being crooked or sideways, so that's the way I cut it. And to get it to stick in the bottle, just cut your sign down however long you want it to be, and then put wire in between there, and then back it with cardstock or decorative paper, and then glue those two together, and glue right on the edge, so obviously because you don't want to have to cut across the wire. Glue that together, cut it out, and then you can poke it right inside your cork, and it'll hold it in place. Now the next bottle is the Bottled Ghost. And I used a product to make it white like this. My idea was that the ghosts are floating around in there, and then you see their eyes all around the bottle. I used a product, it's the Adirondack Metallics. It's an acrylic paint dabber, however you want to say that, pearl. And this stuff, I found it really adhered to the bottle nicely. And you just come in and pounce the bottle. And it's kind of up to you as to how thick you want it to be, or I should say how transparent versus opaque you want this to be, or translucent. You can see after dabbing it just a little bit, you can see it coats it really nicely. So if that's all you want, you can stop and just do the whole bottle, but let it dry in between coats, and then you can just come back in and continue to add more until you get the amount that you want. I think this would be a great color for winter projects too. Then to draw the eyes, it's really simple. There's a couple different eyes I'll show you. I'll try to do this upside down. But you can do, one way is just to do like a V, and then come down like this, and come down like this. And then you can put a black dot in here. I just took some acrylic paint that I had that was a little orange color like the label, and put your eyes in there. And you can make it as big as you want and make spooky eyes. Or you can do this kind of a ghost eye where you've got two round eyes. And then you can do like a mouth like this, and then color those in. So you don't have to be somebody who draws, because I'm certainly not, just to create some spooky eyes for your ghosts that are floating around in the bottle. And just use a permanent marker of some kind to draw those on. If you're good with a paintbrush, of course you can paint these on. Either way will work. And then my idea was, well, the ghost would be trying to get out of the bottle. And so I just wrapped chain, and I used copper color because I thought it matched better with the orange of the bottle. And then I used this lid because I wanted to have something to wrap, to hold the lid down or make it look like it was. And so this, of course, was not copper colored, but I went ahead and used the alcohol ink. It's the vintage photo, or not vintage photo, the vintage colored caramel, the caramel colored alcohol ink on this to turn it, and it with the brass color that it already is, and then putting that on, it kind of turned it to that color. And then I just used some blocks that I had around, laying around, and I did the same thing with them. I painted them as well to make them all the same color, and then just wrapped it around and hooked it through here. Then I glued this inside the bottle. I trimmed this off just a little bit because it was really long, and then bent the prongs back and then put that in there because you won't want this to come out. But these are kind of too long to stick in there, so I just snipped those two off, you know, whatever you've got to just kind of trim those off before you put that in there. And then I talked to you in the first tutorial about covering other objects to create different heights of your bottles. And this is one of the images on the collage sheet, like, woo! So I thought that would be fun to put that on there and then set the bottle on top of that. And then you can see the difference here. You know, if you're not going to see the top, I've used the alcohol ink just to kind of color the top because you can kind of see the edges. But if you're not, all you're going to see the outside, then I just put the paper on the outside and just leave that like it is if you're not going to actually see that. One of my favorite bottles is the Eye of Newt. And I don't know what it is, but I just like eyeballs. So this was a very fun bottle for me. You can see I just started with the clear 2-ounce bottle, and I, after adding the label, I glued on all these eyeballs, little wiggly eyeballs, and Alpha Stamps is actually carrying 3 sizes of these. So these are the ones, they're not the smallest, they're the medium-sized one that I've got on the outside. And then for the eyeballs on the inside, what you can do is take the next size up and glue the two together using Glossy Accents, and then put those in your bottle. That way, no matter how you shake it, you'll see eyeballs. And then I used this hand on the top to hold the large eyeball bead. These eyeball beads they're the same ones I used on the cabinet that I showed you how to wire them. And each side of the eyeball is a different, most of the beads, each side of the eyeball is a different size. The iris is a different size, so you can decide which size you want for your Eye of Newt, if you want to do it this way. And if you don't have the hand, this thing will fit on the top of this. It's a great stopper for bottles. Not just for this one, but for any bottle. So then next, let me show you another one of my favorite bottles. You probably hear this a lot from me, but there were so many bottles that I really liked. And get all these little eyeballs off me. And that is the Transylvania Bat Fangs. Bats are another one of my favorites. And of course I love to put feet on things. So unfortunately the thing that I used for the base here, we can't get anymore. So that's when the snowflakes came in as a replacement for that. And just like the 3-bottle thing, I just bend all the prongs down and it'll make a nice base. And then you can see on the base, I also took some of the pitch black alcohol ink and painted just some of the filigree, and then I came in with the eyeballs, or the cat eyes, and glued those on with the Glossy Accents. And then when you go to put on your label, this is another one of those labels that you don't have to glue down the bat part and where the red moon is. And I also, I don't know if you can see it because I've got it full of stuff that I'll tell you about, but this is another one of those that I colored black on the back. And you'll want to add your bat wings. I glued them behind the label first and then glued the label on, and I did use the E6000 glue because, you know, you need it, with it just kind of sitting out here, you need it to be very strong. And the one thing I wanted to mention to you about these bats and bat wings, that when I was showing it to you before, is once you're done using all the bats off of these sheets, this is pretty thick stuff. It's like about maybe 1/16 of an inch. These make great stencils. So they're nice and sturdy and thick, and so that's another use for them when you're done. Then I also I wanted this to be kind of more of a pretty spooky bottle, so I came in with some of the metallic stickers, the gold metallic stickers. These are the same ones that I painted and used on another bottle, and just added those all over. And then inside, I actually have something I think looks like a fang myself. These little fangs, which started out as just blue beads that I put them in a little puddle of black alcohol ink and turned them black. And so that's what I filled the bottle with. And then I really like the stopper for this. The concept is this is a bead and it's got a pretty good size hole, if you can see that. So the bead fit really nicely in this bottle, but I needed a way to pull it in and out. So what I ended up doing is I have 2 chains, then I've got bats on one end of the chain, and these bats, I colored those again with alcohol ink, the black, and ran the chain through the hole, and on the other side is a red bead, and it's bigger than the hole, so it acts as a stopper. So if you can see all of that. And then it works by just the bats kind of, I let them sit there on the top, and then if you want to pull it, you take your bats and pull out your stopper. So I thought that was a cool idea. Okay, next I want to show you a sample of where you don't have to use bottles for everything. You could use boxes, and we'll do some tins later, but I love matchboxes, and you probably know that from my other tutorials. So this Contagious Cat Grin, I used a matchbox, and I used this pad. It's the Lost and Found Halloween pad, and there's a lot of cool designs on it, and I like the kind of vintage colors because I could use it for something else, not just Halloween. And I like this band of pumpkins, so that's what I wrapped the matchbox in, and it's got the musical notes. Then the label on the front, I inked this with the Vintage Photo Distress inks, and then I added a little charm on the end, a little pump or a little moon, so that you could pull the box in and out. And just make sure that when you do that, that you put an eye pin or something all the way through and loop it. Don't just glue something on, because as you pull this in and out, it will eventually pull right through the hole. So you got to have something that will anchor it on the other side. This bottle is the Dragon's Fire, and this was, I loved the label, but it was kind of hard figuring out what was I going to do to kind of make it seem like fire. And I thought, well, the color red and gold is a good color, and then I wanted something that looked like maybe flames coming out of the top. The 2 things that you see on the side are 2 dragon charms that I found in an Etsy store. I thought they would be perfect as handles, and I attached them using the E6000. They're just barely attached here on each side, and then down here where the tail is. But this E6000 glue is good, so if you get it on there, you have to hold it for a bit before you can let it go. But it's on there really well now, so I think it worked really well. And then of course I used 2 little crystals for the eyes. Now the treatment on the bottle is, of course, done with alcohol inks. What else? And you use this little little wooden handle thing, and you can make your own. This is a Ranger Tim Holtz handle thing, but you could just start with a block of wood and glue a piece of Velcro on it, the part that has the hooks on it. And it's just to hold these little cotton pads, which are kind of felt. I haven't tried this with felt to see if it works just as well, but that might be a good experiment if you don't want to purchase these. And they come in a pack, and a lot of stores carry them. And what you want to do is just take some of the red pepper ink and put it into the pad, and then come in and start to tap your bottle. I'll do a little bit here and then show you what it looks like. And of course it's translucent, so you can still see the contents of the bottle. And you would just continue to do this until you had the entire bottle covered. Now if you didn't have this, you could come in with a paintbrush. The paintbrushes I've been using, and you could come in and just paint it. This is a lot faster, but you certainly could do that as well. Then once that dries, then you want to come in and do the gold. Now the gold does work better if you do have something like this to work with. The gold is not transparent, so wherever you put the gold, you will not see through it. And I really like these. I'm going to use the silver version in the next thing I'm going to show you. These things have a little ball in them, and you have to shake them up in order to get them blended again. They're not like the alcohol inks. They start to separate, so that bead needs to. And then you're going to come in and you're just going to tap wherever you want some of the gold. And I did not put it everywhere. And this is just harder to do. It's coming loose there. Harder to do if you don't have something, a cotton thing like this, and you can tap. So just decide where you want your gold. I'm going to flip this over. It's easier to see on here. And I just think this is really pretty, not just for Halloween, but for just in general, using this on bottles, even if this is something else you want to do. Then another thing I did, I used these stickers, the same ones I used on the bubble bottle. These gothic looking black stickers. They're the nice. I use stickers on bottles all the time, but these adhered the nicest to the bottles of any stickers I've ever used. So I just added a little bit of that to jazz up the edges. And then the stuff that looks like fire, I hope it kind of gives you the idea of fire, that's the idea anyway, is more of the spider web stuff. And I bought this in Michael's, but you know, I'm sure any craft store at this time of year or Halloween store is carrying this stuff. And I like it better than cotton because it really sticks to itself. And you can stretch it out really thin and it's still one piece. So I took one piece with the red pepper and one with the caramel. Now that I get that, oops, wrong thing. Not glossy accents, but the blending solution. And because I've got a lot of red in here already in my thing, my little tray. And I did the same thing with the caramel and I just dyed it, basically. Just dyed each one. And then once you get it, the color as dark as you want it, and this I thought gave it a little bit of sense of a yellow, let this dry, and then weave the two pieces together. And I just twisted and weaved and weaved and weaved, and then stuffed it in the neck of the bottle. And then the other nice thing about this stuff is that you can, since you can pull it, you can really pull it and then twist it. Especially if you get it thinner than I've got it here. And then you can make it go like it is on this bottle in different directions, as if it were flames licking around the top of the bottle. So I think that's cool. Hopefully you do too. And then I'm going to continue with this coating idea. This is exactly what I did for this 10. This is Deadly Nightshade. And I did the exact same technique on the 10. I used this this handle and the cotton with the red in it, and I took this 10, it was just a silver plain 10, and I just did this all over the 10 and all over the lid, and that's how I changed it from just a blank silver 10, you can see the color it was before, to the red. And then in addition to the label, I added these are German scrap Dresden to each of the corners. And this is just a sticker, and then you see some of the bats again that I've used. That's another sticker, the translucent sticker that's spider. And then if you're familiar with my work, you know I use a lot of flowers in my work, and why should it be any different for Halloween? And particularly with this being Deadly Nightshade, and it has to do with being a plant, I decided to put some flowers on the top. And of course I painted them, as I always do. And I used the silver mixative to paint these flowers, and you can see how silvery this stuff really is. I mean, it really made this, took it from this to this silver. And then I painted these lilies, and I actually used, the roses were already black. Then I used some of the, this ribbon, this black ribbon over the top. It's the same stuff that I used around the apothecary cabinet. And then I used some red roses, different sizes red roses. And in the center of each rose, you just see a bead, is what I ended up using. Now on the lily here, you can see these lilies. This thing is the same ones I painted for the eyeball bead thing on the apothecary cabinet. I painted the flower part silver, and then I painted the center red, and I just used a red acrylic paint for that. And then I've used a little border, a little sticker border all the way around the top of the lid. So I wanted to show you a couple bottles that I decorated using the eyedropper bottle. Now the eyedropper top is made out of rubber, and I wanted to show you that you can paint the rubber with alcohol ink, and I used the black on the rubber stopper. Then on the top is a cat sticker, and I use these cat stickers that are a little bit dimensional, and what I like about them is A lot of times cat sticker or stickers, they'll all go the same way, and this one's got stickers that go both directions. So the front and the back is the cat. So what you want to do to achieve this is you want to, again, just like we had before, put a wire in between two of these cat stickers. Then the edge on the sticker will be white. So if you come in with your alcohol ink and your brush, you can just touch up the edges and get rid of the white, and it'll all be black. Then around the bottle, I used these metallic stickers. I don't know if you can see this. And I also added the cat on each side. And then inside is alcohol ink. It's the pesto, but it's not, you can see here's the regular pesto color. And this is what you get if you blend it with the alcohol, rubbing alcohol as opposed to the blending solution. You can see it's turned into kind of a muddy, mucky green. And then I tied on this label that says, you know, since this is Black Cat Luck, it says 1 drop lasts all day. And I'll have this for you to download on the website for free. And then I just put a little sticker tape here around the neck of the bottle. Now the other bottle like this that I did is this, it's Full Moon Hairy Herbs. And for this one, the stopper, I actually took 2 of these moon charms, and I glue them together, one going one direction and one going the other direction. And to color them, I used the Gilder's paste. I used the copper on one moon, and then I used the black on the other moon, and then copper on that as well. Then around this, you can see I've used some ribbon. It's this black and orange ribbon, and I've also glued on just some eyeball beads to make it have eyeballs all over. And I had these the stickers with the leaves, and in between, in the little leaves, I came in with the pesto alcohol ink and just painted inside of each leaf. You probably can't see it well on the video, but if you were to see it in real life, you'd see that all those leaves are actually green. So stickers make really good barriers so that you can paint inside them and not get it on the rest of the bottle. Then another thing that I did is wrapped this leaf thing around it, and I just wired it. So it's the same leaves that you've seen before, and the only difference is that I've come in with some wire. And this thin black wire works great because by the time you wrap it, you really can't see the wire anymore. So you're just going to cut off how much you want, and then just start wrapping the wire around your leaves. And then now you've got something that's wired like this is. And then now you can wrap it around, twist it. You know, you could put more on here if you wanted to. But that's just an easy way to wire stuff like this. I hope you're enjoying the tutorial. You can continue the fun by watching the second part.